Hello and welcome to today's video. This time we'll be taking a look through the 4 original Dennis Wheatley crime dossiers that came out in the late 1930s. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so this is the first one, which is Murder off Miami. And I see this one's got a little 750 on the cover there, so that does appear to be in pencil. So we'll get that off now. So I'm not sure if you've ever come across these before, but they did get re-released in the 80s, and that's when I first saw them. And well, they're quite something, aren't they? Now, what they are is basically, it's almost like a solve it yourself puzzle, which is full of like clues and facts, and you have to put it together. You don't read it like a book. You have to like evaluate all the evidence and then work out what has gone on and who the killer might be. So this was the very first one, and I have been online and I've checked in the there's a very good Dennis Wheatley website which I've used for many years now, and it sort of is a very good guide to the publications and how to identify the first editions and things like that. And this particular one is a first printing of the first book. One of the easiest ways to tell on this one is because there's a little note there from Dennis Wheatley on the back saying, keep this carefully, it's a first edition. Later editions, and we've got a few reprints to show you, will have like an n,000th copy. So we'll have a look at those when we get to them. But this is a true first of the first book. And it was published on July the 23rd, 1936. Priced at 3 and 6, as you can see. So on the website, it does say that at this price, profit margins were very tight, as the production costs, which involved sticking all the physical clues and sheets of written evidence in place manually, were high, as you can imagine. And when you go through, you'll see what I mean. So Hutchinson agreed to pay a royalty of just 1 penny each to Wheatley and Links on any sales in excess of 10,000 copies. So they do say that, however, at the outset, the idea might have been stillborn, as the reaction of bookshop and bookstall managers was that the books, it was mainly negative because they were sort of very unwieldy. They were difficult to display on the bookshelves and that. However, Wheatley believed in them wholeheartedly, and having wined and dined dozens of such managers across London, convinced them to take a small number. Selfridges in London was more forthcoming, agreeing to take 1,000 copies as long as Wheatley signed each one, which he gladly did. So I think I've got 2 first editions of this particular one. So we'll see if either of mine are signed. But this first edition only came out in 10,000 copies. So not many at all. As you can see, it's got all these little like sort of inserts inside here. And you have to work your way through, read all the documentation, and then there's a solution at the end, which is usually, which if you want a perfect one, it has to still remain sealed. But yeah, all these little bits and pieces all had to be put in by hand. No idea where Dennis Wheatley would have actually signed these. I would imagine in the front, and there's certainly no sign of it there. That's obviously just a facsimile. So, as it happens, the books actually did really, really well. And Dennis Wheatley states in the 3rd volume of his autobiography, which is called Drink and Ink, that 120,000 copies were sold in 6 months. Which is amazing. He added that Queen Mary bought all 6 copies that were held at Hatchard's on the day of publication. Amazing, eh? As you can see, there's loads of these little inserts. It must have been quite a publishing feat to pull all this together. But even back then in the 30s, Wheatley had a lot of influence. Amazing, isn't it? It is absolutely amazing. So yeah, lots of clues to take in to solve the murder. Little cards and things. It's mad, isn't it? Memos. And they were published abroad as well. In America, the titles were changed, but they were published over there as well. And I remember these getting re-released in the mid-90s and thinking, wow, these are amazing. See, quite a bit. I said, you have to work your way through it. It doesn't read like a book. You have to look at all the evidence as it's presented to you, and then you have to figure out who the murderer was. There's quite a bit here. Then at the very end, there is the solution. So it says there, do not break this strip until you have decided on the evidence submitted who murdered Bolitho Blaine. So this has got the solution opened up. I guess that's what it was. Solution of the murder is perfectly clear on the evidence submitted. There we are. So the idea, if you want an absolutely perfect, complete one, is to have the have one with an unbroken solution still in the envelope. That's what you're looking for. But even so, still very, very nice to have this as a first printing. There we are. There, on the back there. Keep this carefully. It is a first edition of the first crime story ever presented in this way. Should others follow, it is possible that an undamaged copy of Murder of Miami may be of considerable interest one day. Well, he was dead right. I mean, Dennis Wheatley is nowhere near as collectible as he used to be. I mean, he's just not. So the pricing of Dennis Wheatley across the board has generally come down. So an absolutely perfect one of these, sealed, with the sealed solution, is probably about £100. One of these with this, a first printing, still only of 10,000, but with the solution completed, is probably, I don't know, £20 to £30. They're not that much. They really aren't. Now, here's a second one, another copy of this one, and this is another first printing. And I'm just going to check the key bits. So the solution is opened again. So that's that. And I can't see any Dennis Wheatley signature on the front there to show it was one of those ones. So we will assume that that's just a spare copy of that one. And then this is an example of a reprint. So the difference here is across the top there, 60th thousandth. So if it's a reprint, that's how you tell, because it'll have a number along the front, and it'll say like a thousandth reprint. And should we just check to see if the solution's intact in this one or not? And it is not. So there you go. That's the first crime dossier. Okay, so this is the second dossier, Who Killed Robert Prentice, and this was published on the 1st of June 1937. And apparently this is a more complex and intriguing mystery than the first, and like the first, it did enjoy similar success. It was also published in the United States as a file on Robert Prentice. And once again, this is the first printing of it. I've double checked, so this is what you're looking for on the first printing. No evidence of reprint anywhere at all. And this one does actually contain like a fake newspaper, the South Sussex Chronicle. And in that they actually interview Dennis Wheatley and his wife, and J.G. Links as well. They sort of talk about his writing career. Stamps and what have you, little exhibits. There we are, lots of bits and pieces in this little envelope. Some tiny little pictures in there in a bag. So here's the fake newspaper, the South Sussex Chronicle. So they're interviewed in there, and basically they talk about his career, and they give some guarded thoughts about who the murderer could be, basically. So there we are. Now what's this? Do not break the strip. So this is the solution. And it does appear to have make up your mind who really did the murder. So is that? Can you guess the answer? Who did it? I don't know. But there we are. So it's another way. It's got not got a sealed solution. But that's what to look for with the first printing, exactly like that. There's a second printing, or a later printing, which has got a 3 and 6 sticker over it. And I suspect that this was printed roughly around the same time, but for export. And then the export copy has had a 3 and 6 sticker put over it. And then here's an example of a reprint where it says clearly the 65th thousandth, and marking it as the second murder mystery, as penned with J.G. Links. So that's the 3 to look for. But that's the first printing. Very cool. Okay, so here's the third crime dossier, the Malinsay Massacre. And once again, I believe this is the correct cover for the first printing. And this was published in the 1st of April 1938. On the Dennis Wheatley website, he suggests that Wheatley himself and J.G. Links were sort of running out of steam a little bit with ideas. And a lot of the clues within this are of the printed variety. The only sort of bit of physical evidence is actually like a pill, which we'll have a look for as we work our way through. Yeah, sort of paper items here. So apparently, having written the story, Dennis Wheatley himself went on holiday, and although the actual mystery is set in an ancient Scottish castle, a lot of the photographs were actually taken in the Carlton Hotel in London. Wheatley considered the photographs were inappropriate, but by then it was too late to do anything about it. So it went out as is. So all these photographs were from taken in the Carlton Hotel. Not in the Scottish Highlands. What's this? This is the poison tablet. Oh look, it's actually ripped my copy. There we are. It's stuck down. So the tablet itself has actually dissolved. So it's caused the page to stick together. It does say, look, note to readers, the poison has been extracted from this tablet. So that's something to look out for. That's actually damaged my copy of my book. I suppose it is almost 90 years old. And once again, you get the sealed solution at the back. No doubt mine's been opened. Yeah, there we are. The solution is you just sort of cut it with a knife and it would be in there. So there we go. So that was the third one. Now, I've only got one more copy of this one, this is a reprint, and this has got the more yellow rather than the orangey sort of colour to it. We'll have a look through though, just to see if the pill has done the same thing on this one, if we can find it. And I have found the page again, and look at this, look. It looks as if the poison tablet has melted again. So if I pull that away, it's going to rip it. So I'm going to leave that as is. So a little tip there, if you get this one, be careful of that poison pill. So here is the last of the 4 that were produced in the 1930s. Herewith the clues. And apparently Wheatley and Links did consider producing this last one actually like in a box. Rather than a book, but then they realised that it would actually be sort of merchandised in the in like the toy section or games section rather than the books. So, and also obviously the production costs would have really risen. As it was, production costs had absolutely spiraled out of control as we moved closer and closer to the Second World War. So all the clues, like the sort of physical clues on this one, are all sort of pinned down onto the one page rather than being stuck throughout the book. So we'll have a look at that one in a minute. Apparently in the photographs, Wheatley got some of his celebrity friends to pose for the photographs, so he got some of his mates into it. He just gave them sort of fictional names. Apparently in his autobiographies, Wheatley did say that a fifth dossier was planned with the working title of Murder in New York, but the war intervened and that was that, basically. Now, during the Second World War, the production material for the murder dossiers was destroyed during the Blitz over Plymouth, alongside the type for Wheatley's more conventional novels, and owing to the enormous increased costs of dossier production, the murder dossiers were not to be republished for some 40 years, so late 70s, early 80s. So here is the page. Look, this is basically all the evidence is in here on this one page. Is like a bit of hair, there's a cigarette butt, some tickets. How bad is that? Look, someone's tried to figure this out as well, by the look of it. But they decided to put all those sorts of bits of evidence all on the one page, rather than intersperse them throughout. So these would have been Wheatley's friends, who he got used in the book, give him a bit of fame. So apparently there's a little amusing anecdote where Dennis Wheatley recounts an occasion where the publicity-conscious Billy Butlin approached him with the idea of using one of his holiday camps as the setting for another dossier. However, Wheatley felt he could not see such characters as Sir Pellinore Gwynwyn Cust or Princess Mary Lou deporting themselves in a Butlin's holiday camp. So he tactfully declined the offer. Frank Richards, however, as you may well know, took him up, was approached again by Billy Butler and did the book Billy Butler in Butlin's. So, but they didn't do a crime dossier there. And there we are. This is the seal here with the solution. So none of mine have got sealed solutions, sadly, but we don't mind. And that is the only copy I've got of that one, but I do believe, once again, it is the correct first printing. This is the edition you should be looking for. So there you go, real curiosities from the late 1930s, and these do surprisingly turn up. They're not expensive on places like eBay. As I said, you can get them for about £10 a book, you know. If it was me, I would always go for the originals rather than going for one of the reprints that were published. You might as well, because they're about the same price. And as I say, if you want to really pay for, tip-top condition, is obviously important, and also having the sealed solutions is the other part. But certainly a curiosity, and I'm very pleased to have the set of 4 in my collection. If you've enjoyed today's video, do please give it that thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you've not already for regular vintage content, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.